Hi there, it's Dr. Judith Briles, and we again have our series all through this month of how to author success. And today we're going to focus on the marketing, which is always the Achilles heel for people. And it's when it comes to authoring and book marketing and writing, it's a 90-10, and it's 10% is writing, your story, your content, your how-tos. It's really the marketing that's going to carry it and move it forward. But as always, when we start the show, and it's as a solo, it's just me. I always like to share something from my little book, How to Create Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success for Authors and Writers. Over 400 of my quotes, and I'd recommend, I have clients. This is kind of, if you can see this is what it looks like. These little, and I'm in the marketing section. And I have clients who literally have pulled pages out and taped them around as like a sticky note. Maybe I should make a sticky note. Anyway, so today's quote, tying into book marketing, today is like going to the cereal aisle at your grocery store. All six shelves, lots of shelves of it, and consuming a 60-foot at least row, packed with every imaginable type of cereal. Your aisle is centered on the internet. It's the marketing aisle. It's the tools, the platforms, whatever's out there. It's time for you to go shopping. So that's what we're going to be talking about throughout this session today. And that I always want to thank our sponsors who make this possible. This is certainly the AuthorU.org membership organization that does programs for authors, aspiring authors, on how to be successful. And these programs, cover a variety of different topics that are tied into that. Membership is an annual, and programs are inclusive. So when we do, like we do a Saturday program once a month, and that's just included as a membership fee. There's no extra fees added on. And I do a special another Saturday a month where it's like pick my brain, and people come on and it's kind of like your own little advisory board, and they ask a variety of questions. And when you have a lot of people there, there's a lot of variables. So it's always good to see what happens. And that's online. And for those in Colorado, it's actually in person as well. So that's AuthorU.org. And then there's At the Book Shepherd, which is my organization where I do my consulting and lots of blogging and information and even workshops out of that. And then there is the awesome Nick Zellinger, who is a multi-award-winning book designer for both interior, exterior, and swag, and all the little goodies that you can do to enhance your book selling, especially in bookstores or private events. And then Rebecca Finkel, who is also a multi-award-winning book designer, and interior designer. And Rebecca also does really great websites that tie in with the branding side of it. I can highly recommend either one of these individuals to bring your book to life. They've worked on my books, multiple books through the years, and I'm rolling out two new ones this year, that they have their hands on. So it's very cool, with that. So thank you to our sponsors, and now we'll just jump into what we're talking about, which is marketing. Now, marketing, I always like to talk about the 7 habits. I'll probably do a bookend here, but the first habit for successful book marketing is you need to get smart, get savvy. What's out there? What's in that cereal aisle of marketing that you can choose from? You also have to be really tuned into, when you're looking to dive deep. You need to be aware of a book site called a Writer Beware. And Victoria Strauss creates it, and there's like a blacklist of people to stay away from. You've got to be very careful. There's a lot of predators out there in the independent self-publishing, any publishing arena, that they will love you until your credit card maxes out. So you need to be very careful. So what do you do to get savvy and do that? Anytime you're considering working with someone for marketing expertise, book publishing expertise, fill in the blank expertise, you need to go to the Google and you put in the name of the company as well as the individuals. that maybe you're working with. And I would put that in, and then I would add the word scams. Put their name in again, and I'd add ripoff. Name it again complaints, and name again problems, and name again lawsuits. You are looking for issues, and you're going to go way past page 1 of the Google, because most of the first page is filled with now sponsored ads. You need to find out what's going on out there, and certainly ask other people. I know I do multiple blogs throughout the year on the publishing predators, because they're the bane of our existence, and we need to be careful, and we need to tell people who the bad apples are. So writers beware will be your friend. So pay attention and check in. And they literally have lists of people to stay away from. And you also understand a lot of these people, when they get knocked down, oh my God, their resilience is amazing. And they pop back up again with a new name. So you just have to keep looking at that. All right, there's my next tip for really a habit for effective marketing is you need to get yourself unstuck. If you're finding that you're running out of gas and you're losing your mojo, I'm going to recommend my book to you called The Author's Walk. It is not about the craft of writing or really the craft of publishing. It's the craft of you and keeping your mojo up or rekindle it and get going. It is the book that I wish I'd had. Oh, let me see if I have a copy of it here. I do. It's a book I wish I had 40 years ago when I started writing. So this is what she looks like. So it's finding and using your voice to create publishing success. So it's the Author's Walk. You can get it on Amazon. Any bookstore can order it if they don't have any copies in stock. But I would highly recommend this to you. It'll make a difference in your life really, really fast in the process. All right, so next up is you got to get unstuck and get unwork. So the next step would be, my little light is not behaving well, is to just get advice. So reach out. This is where memberships like AuthorU.org will help you. There's a lot of the Alliance of Independent Authors is excellent. I'd highly recommend that to you in there. But get advice and start reading and tracking. And there's always someone has an idea. There's always a system out there. There's always another model. But it's really a good idea to work with people who have got some longevity to them. And better, like I mentioned, I've been out here for 40 years authoring and publishing, and I've been advising people for over 20 years because I was doing other stuff when I was doing authoring in the beginning. Number 4 is you've got to get real. You know what? Screw ups are going to happen. Failures are going to happen. We all do them. So back up, regress. I'm trying to see if I don't have my little book on blunders. But How to Avoid Book Publishing Blunders is a great book that will save you thousands, and I'm telling you, thousands of dollars in unraveling things that you might have got into a pickle with. So, or to avoid straight out. There are over 200 things to stay away from. But mistakes are going to happen. Failures are going to happen. Not every book you write is going to be a home run. And by the way, books do breed books. No one told me that. I was a one book pony, and now I'm at number 48. Books breed books. And actually, the more you do write, it'll add on. And sometimes it might be the third book that all of a sudden it sparks. All right. Number 5 is you need to get involved. That it's important to hang out with other authors, with other people who are writing and publishing out there, because this is a lonely number sometimes. So you want to get involved in what's going on in the world and people who can help you. I mean, this month I actually did a book tea for one of my clients celebrating her brand new book. I had 20 of my friends come over, and they all know the rule is you got to buy a book. But I'm cooking, and to introduce them to her and her book, because it's so ideal for right now during the summertime of the year when graduations are going on, and girls, it's for them. Right. Number 6 is you need to be focused. Now, a phrase I love to use is myopically focused. You need to be focused on this. And it was like I just had a new book come in that will be introduced probably just before the 4th of July. It's leading up to that. It's now in its what we call a final cold eye read, but when it came back, going through it, I had to, as the author, go through it one more time, and then I turn it over to someone this is what I call my cold eye editor. I turn it over to them. Now they're looking for quote marks that are backwards in narrative. They're looking for a missing punctuation. They're looking for, uh-oh, a line got dropped and it needs to be brought back together. They're looking for, the header didn't change in this chapter and match it. This is a book with 95 chapters in it. It's a historical fantasy fiction book. This is someone who has not been married to it as I have been, that I'm not going to see things anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to see the things that fresh eyes will come in. Those are the final changes, the corrections that go to the layout designer. Rebecca's doing this book that will do to the designer, and then that's it. They all get corrected, and voila, it's ready to be uploaded to the distribution gods. So, so when it came in very late on a Friday night, Saturday morning, checked it, I got a text from the editor saying, I'm done. And it came in so I could go through one more time, make my changes, adds, agree, disagree, and then move it to the layout person. And as I said, Rebecca did the layout. She has completed the layout of my 532-page book, and now it's to the cold eye editor for one more time around the merry-go-round, and then we're done. Then it goes to Amazon. Then it goes to England. Then it's done. But so to do that, I knew that I had to clear, even though I had multiple things planned on a Saturday, cleared every one of them, and I became blinder, myopically focused. This was the job. And that's what you have to do in some of these things, especially with marketing. Have to do this. All right. And then the last, number 7, is you just got to get going. It's time to get going. So what I wanted to do on these things, on the get going and your book launching that we're talking about doing, is there is a lot of components to it. And what I'm going to show you is a game plan. I've been using game plans for our previous sessions. We did one on setting up just for your whole book, what it was about, and we've done a couple. We're doing for game plans. This is what I like to do to bring them up and show them. So I'm going to switch to a shared screen real quick and bring that up so you can see that. And I'll bring up the game plan. So this is my book marketing game plan. All right. Now, I do these when I do in-person workshops. Everyone gets this in the workbook, in the 8.5 by 11 workbook. But they get bigger ones, like 2 feet, 18 inches, 2 feet. They get a wad of small sticky notes. And when we are presenting the segment, or this could be an all-day workshop I do on book marketing, that they are told, if I say something that springs an idea that might fit in with your book, I want you to not wait. I want you, or just write it on the sticky note you're going to be using, and then get it labeled in. So going through the column, and those of you who are listening who are not viewing, is there we have like 5 big columns, and a couple of them are subdivided. But on the very far left, there's one that says who. You please keep in mind who this book is for. Who are you marketing it to? Now, I have one book that I was the consultant to, that the real market was primarily the mother, but a parent, primarily the mom or grandparent. The reader market was a young girl between 16 and 25. All right. And they are graduates. All right. So that's who the book is for. But, we're marketing also out to probably the buyers of the book that will give them to the daughter, the granddaughter, the niece, the best friend, something, whatever. So who is that? And it's really important to understand a couple of these things. The more you niche down who your book is for, the bigger and more explosive your market can be. It is easier to be that myopic focus here on it and become the whale in that pond versus the sardine amongst millions of other books in the sea. So that's what we're looking at, when you're tying this in and going for. So who is your who? Who is your who as you go through it? And I've written books, my own personal background, I wrote multiple books in the finance area, primarily for women. I wrote books for the healthcare area, primarily dealing with relationships, communication, toxicity, conflict. And then I wrote books in the publishing area, so each one of them have different markets. Who is your market? Now, it's also really important because you need this for your talking points. And the next column is what's the value? What are the benefits that you bring to them with your book? And I don't care if it's fiction or nonfiction, they all have value benefits on that. It's like when I'm in a bookstore and I do a lot of programs and book signings with Barnes and Noble. When I'm in those stores, almost like there are certain, where it's the fantasy readers. They're almost like the deer in the headlights, and they are heading for. And because sometimes people think I work for the store because I always like to know where things are, including where the bathrooms are, so I can guide people back there. But they're coming in and they may say, I'm looking for the latest Sarah Moss book or the Rebecca Yarros book or Kevin Anderson's book. Okay, those are fantasy people. They're sci-fi and fantasy people. I know exactly where to direct them to in the bookstore. And usually they're in a couple of locations. There's that whole section with shelving, but also in some of these, like a Yaros or a Moss, there are individual tables that are filled high with their books, right? What's the value? All right, for the fantasy reader is, drop out, escapism. There are all kinds of things. But there's divisions with that. Are we in the Swords and Dragons? Are we in the historical fiction fantasy where you're doing that? Are we into the battles? Are we kind of an Outlander type thing? What kind of value is it? Because that helps you with your who. All right. Now, the center column has four little boxes that would take up two of the columns. One is, why are you the writer of this book? Again, these are talking points that come out. It could have been, you lived in the fantasy world by the time you were 4 years old till you were 12 and realized I could write about it, right? But why are you the writer? Or if you're nonfiction, did you do research behind it? Do you have a gazillion years of expertise in your topic? Why you? Why you? Now, right below that, I have a box called competition. It is so important because I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do. It is so important that you could do a deal with the competition, who are or competitors of authors, or comparables is another out there, because there is a great little technique that you can do, and that you can bring out, and you can say, if you are a fan of this person, you will love this book as you go along. And so if you were a horror, let's use Stephen King, people think, I mean, he also has written one of my favorite writing books called On Writing. If as a writer, on writing, that is so ideal to have in that. It's one of my favorite books for newbie authors, or I go through and I read it once a year just to remind myself on it. So if I wanted to put up my book on author success, for example, or the author's walk, I may say, if you're a fan of Stephen King's On Writing, and I would do it on the left side, okay, your left side. because most of us, our readers are going to be in North America. In Europe, they read left to right, left to right, left to right. So I would put on the left side, if you devoured Stephen King's wisdom on writing, I may call out and say, hey, writers, hey, authors, if you devoured Stephen King's book on writing, it's time to discover Judith Briles' book, The Author's Walk. So I would have his cover on writing. I would have my cover, The Author's Walk, and you could have, both available on Amazon. So do you need to get permission? Nope. I'm supporting Stephen King. I'm a big proponent of that book in doing that. And then, you could tag him. He's all over the social media. If there's a fit, if you're a horror writer, you could, are you, have you read King's latest It? When you're done, discover this one. So there's things that you can do that will move it on that. But so who are your competing authors? And you know what? A lot of people don't know. So go to the Google, go to Amazon.com and put best-selling authors in your genre or your keywords and see what comes up on that. And even Amazon will make suggestions to you. And those are the ones that you want to go in and screenshot their book cover and do it save, put in your save folder for marketing going forward. So do that and bring it in. And then when you're ready to make these comparable posters, because these will be posting out off and on social media, you'll be weaving it into your inventory of marketing posters. I'm a big believer in the posters. So do something like that. But that's what the competition is. Your keywords is essential to understand what your hashtag keywords, and then the @ sign for your comparables too. Do that. But what are your keywords? When you go up and put your book on Amazon, they give you 7 categories for keywords. On Ingram Spark, their metadata can take a gazillion of them. But these are the search, what are your key search words? And you can get descriptive. In fact, on Amazon, on that 7 lines, they are now encouraging you to use phrases so you can get your descriptive adjectives in, and verbs, action. You want to think, if I was up here looking for a book on this topic, what words would I use in Amazon, which is the #3 search engine? What keywords would I use in here to find that book? Those you want to own, and hashtag and add on included, which would be, we'll come back to that. And then communicate is another box. How are you going to interact with people? Now, I hope that you have created a program that's tied to your website. Please tell me you have a website. You need a website that is an opt-in or a lead magnet. And I have just done a session on how to create an opt-in, an ultimate opt-in resource, how to do this. But if you have your communication, are you going to communicate by blog? Are you going to create a newsletter? How are I going to do it? I'm going to have it on my website. Am I going to go to like an outside, like Substack? How am I going to do it? And I'm going to do email marketing. What is it that you're going to do in this process as you go along? Okay, so that's the game plan here that we want in it. And just as reminders. All right, now the other column, the last column going down, and then they have a few on the lower part, is SEO. So what platforms do you belong on? Not everyone belongs on every platform. And you need to figure out if you have a business book, you definitely need to be on LinkedIn. Probably LinkedIn, Facebook. If you have a book that could get maybe the media's attention for business related, for example, I would be on Blue Sky, and I'd also add Twitter to it. And then the hashtags you're gonna use, or the handles, the @ sign, could be at CNN, at Fox News, at fill in the blank on those. But this is where you need to start figuring out, where are your followers landed? And for, most fiction, you're definitely going to be on Instagram. You may be on TikTok. you're on kids' books, you're definitely going to be on Instagram, maybe TikTok, maybe going over into your Facebook, and tying that in. And I also want to encourage you not to forget Pinterest. Remember, Pinterest, if with the boards, you can customize what you're doing here. Pinterest is a situation that, the stuff lasts forever, where your other social media is definitely not forever and it's minimal. So figure that out. Now, the bottom three sections here, as we're looking at money use, shout outs, images, photos, videos. So money use is just, okay, so what's your budget? And a lot of people say, but I put so much money into my editing and I did this, that. I don't have any money for marketing. I'm telling you, you're gonna need to find some to support. You're gonna cherry pick and choose which way to go, but you're gonna do your homework to find out, how feasible it was. One of the things that could be a huge money suck could be, hiring a PR person. And most of them require like 6 months, and you're talking multi-thousands of dollars. And and there's no guarantees. And I would take baby steps here, baby steps. Images, I would encourage you to start building an inventory of posters. A tool to start with. Just if you're not using it, you want Photofunia, free. You just have to be careful you don't click on the wrong thing and end up in an ad for some weird thing. But Photofunia, you can take your book cover and drop it into so many, and it's a photo, PHOTOF as in Frank, UNIA.com. And they have all these different categories. Like you can put your book on a magazine cover. You can have someone reading a newspaper, and you can put, Wall Street Journal, put a dummy in, that there's ways to do this faux in it. You've got all kinds of ways to manufacture variations for your book for marking out. And I want to encourage you, as soon as you have your book cover, you start making this stuff and you just tuck it away. You should have a special marketing folder that you drop this stuff in. Same with videos. I mean, you better have, you all got phones, all right? So we've got my phone, all right? So I can do a very quick video, on what's going on with, I may be talking about it, or I may put together, like I will do for each of the podcasts, I will make a little short video to lead into it that will add on to it as we go on to YouTube. I can also put it on my other social media channels. So video, think about it. If you've got a tips book, if you've got a book with a lot of key takeaways in it, especially nonfiction, very common, you could take each one of those and say, you can introduce yourself, show your book cover and bring it up. And what you can do is literally take it and run with it, which is very exciting. And that you can then literally introduce this, and that we can, then you have it when you're ready to roll out any campaign that you have. Right. Another great tool I would recommend to you to add to is bookbrush, all one word.com, designed just for authors. They have mock-up shots. Mock-up shots is another one of my favorites, that you can take. They will instantly make a gazillion covers doing different things that you can use to do promo and push out. That's essential to do. So I would just start making. I would also go to something like a Pixabay. There's two free sites I use, check into a lot. One is Pixabay, Pixabay. You go below the first line because you have to pay for those, but everything else is kind of free below it. And put in your keywords again and see what kind of images come up. If you like them, download it and save it to use for a rainy day on it. There's also Wiki, WIKI, Media Commons is a great site to find some of these older images that are free, but they're not on a lot of different sites. So use those. And then lastly, on my little game plan is shout outs. So who maybe will help shout out for you too. Who can you go to? And this is, I would encourage you, this is when a VA could come in, a virtual assistant could come in to be really ideal to help you out in this process as you go forward. So with that said, that's what we're going to come into here, do the videos, shorting, create a YouTube channel. I think that would be a great idea, especially all you nonfiction people, create a YouTube channel. And fiction, well-known, best-selling author, Colleen Hoover, all started her stuff with her fiction on just doing videos and putting them up, on the TikTok and Instagram and eventually YouTube. And she eventually landed a gazillion $1 million deal with a big publisher, but that's how she sold her books. So now I'm going to get out of sharing this and just come back and just talk with you. Now let's talk about you going forward with your who, what, where, what, and why. And it's really important to understand, what your hashtags are and going in. If you have kids' books, you need to have certainly hashtag kidlit. Children's books, hashtag children's books. You want to have hashtag parenting for going in. There's just a variety of that. Kids' books, hashtag. And then, of course, there's just plain old books. All right, so you want to go through what you're going to do. You're going to do, cross-marketing every which way but loose. Every which way but loose, which will be helpful with you on where you go. And again, that you want to identify. So when you're going to do your book launch, it's like with my new book coming out, which is historical fantasy fiction. And it's going to be, we'll be going for just before the 4th of July weekend and push into that. And we will stream it, tying into that. You've got a long weekend ahead. If you haven't started on book 1, you might want it because this is book 3. And we'll keep looping back as that goes back and forth in that. All right, so I mentioned creating the comparable posters, and I want you to start thinking about that, and then start thinking about, you might want to think about making it, if you're a nonfiction, a tip graphic, they call them, but they would be usually they're in a column or they have it, but it could be like a graphic that leads, like a stair step down. This is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, that are visuals. These are all visuals we're thinking about. I also would encourage you to think strongly about creating uh, a campaign and start writing social media posts. So what would you make a campaign for and where would you put them? We're talking about Facebook. We're talking about, it could be a Twitter. It could be Blue Sky. It could be on Instagram. It could be fill in, that kind of things. I think one of the tips that's important to realize on Instagram is that sometimes it gets really hodgepodgey, a lot of stuff going on. And I think that people get excited and they put up everything in the world, where I would be looking for themes. And remember, for an Instagram, you have like 1, 2, and 3. So maybe a color theme in a row that goes onto it, or maybe you have motifs with, I like to use sometimes just a stream of flowers on that, and I do those. I also have things that are special tied in with my area of expertise, which is publishing, writing, authors, that I have a different thing each month. Now, I will look up, I do a blog, usually at the first part of the year, of all the literary days of the year. And there's a gazillion of them. So one of the things I'd recommend to you is you go into the Google again and put on special days for whatever your theme is on that. Now, it was interesting with one of my clients, who writes epic fantasy. There wasn't an epic fantasy day. I mean, that's huge readers in there. So we created in February Epic Fantasy Week. And at that time, he had 6 books in his series. And the first day we put out that we showed them all, it's coming. And we reduced the price for a 24-hour period for each book down to 99 cents from the $22. And we created a campaign to support each book going out for that day, bringing in the 99 cents. And it would hook over. And then we did this via Amazon. And we did it on an ebook. And at the end of the 24-hour period, bang, it was back up. So that was part of the ploy to keep out. So we pushed in those areas, and it kind of, that was rotating doors. So the first day we announced it all, and a stream showing all the books, and the posters showed all of them, and we had several different posts going out during the day. During campaigns, it's not just one post a day. You're doing 3 to 5 at least, all right? And that's to all your sites that you're on, social media sites. So we did that, and then the first day started book 1. We just did book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, 5, and 6 on that. And he sold, and then we had an ad supporting each book each day, and it sold like 400 or 500 books during that time. So, it was well worth his while to bring it in. It covered his cost, but it also brought an awareness up that this is, what was going on. So it wasn't a freebie. They had to get in, but it was a buck. So you can do things like that. Now, when we do, I'm a big believer in doing an Amazon bestseller campaign. Again, that's going to have a special campaign that goes out to drive it. You want to nab that. And one of the tricks is that if you get an award, #1 for awards or bestseller status, I would go into your description of your book, and I would go in, and you do it in bold. Very easy to make these changes. Do it in bold, and it could say you could say Amazon bestseller, international Amazon bestseller in these categories, and they will pop up on the when you look at your details page on Amazon, that it'll have the description of what the book is. And when you do the bold, like in headline, now this is going to be the lead thing. Gives you a little bit of a push, which is kind of cool on that. There's also something that you want to check out in Amazon. It's a freebie from Amazon, and it's called their Amazon Plus. Amazon Plus. And this is where I would look at a tutorial, go in, because they'll give you descriptions and follow it through. But what you can take is a major image of your book and start dropping it in as it goes along, and it does it in sections, like 3 sections, or they have like 20 different graphic situations that you can do, and it gives a totally different look to your book underneath that description details. So this is what the big boys do, and you get to be one of them as they put that out. So think about doing that as you go forward. Also tying in with the other campaigns you're going to do. So Amazon campaign would have a very special campaign going on. And this is where you must have, for your book marketing success, some type of a CRM what stands for Customer Relations Manager. But for you, it could be, something like Later or MailerLite, or MailerLite and MailChimp are good examples for collecting emails. But I'm talking about handling your social media, where you could go up once and goose it all out at one time. Or you can set it up, for example, when I do a campaign, and as I'm doing this recording, I have one going on right now for a client, and I set it all up very early this morning for 3 days of posts going out. So I don't have to think about it. It's already going out in my channels to support him so he's successful. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking at as where we're going, what's happening in that, because that makes a huge, huge difference on your success on it. So I do a campaign for everything on that as you go along. Now, another thing you want to do in your marketing is, I think, let's see if I can go in and find it real quick, is that show you something that we do for our clients, all of it. And I'm going to go back and share. And I need to get into let's see, we're done with this. So we can get rid of that one. Okay. All right, we're going to do book marketing game plan. Goodbye. And I want to go up into where I store these. These are review requests. And if I'm going on, I'm going to show you, some of mine. Let's just say, oh, let's see, these are not mine. Well, here, let's just do this one. See what comes up. All right, so this is my book, The Author's Walk. This is something I want to encourage you all to do in every one of your books. So I can get like 3 to a page, all right? And that I have. And what we do is we cut these. We have them in another tip for you to do, but we have them we put them in every book at any event I'm at, if they buy this book, right? Every event I'm at, any bookstore signings that I'm doing, and it's just thanking them for it, asking them to go to Amazon to post a review on it. So, and how important it is to us. So I use Bitly. You can, there's, TinyURL, there's other shorteners. But if I can customize it, this is very cool. Now, so where would this go? This would go directly to my Amazon page to post a review. You're asking them to do it. And again, 3 to a page for that. So that's for that particular one. But if you have, let's see here. Let's see what this is. Oh, this is, let's say I was writing it up for someone. Let me see if we have a book cover in here. Now, you want your book cover into it. I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you do it with book covers, if you have it. All right, so here's a book we did. This is called Dusty Roads. It's a biography of a woman who really was one of the hidden figures in the women's movement. So she does this, she cuts them up, the author, Elaine Rock, she cuts them up, she puts them all in. This is for fiction, by the way, to ask, go ahead and ask, is the story engaging? Were you surprised by what a character did? Did you have a favorite character? That kind of thing on that. So you're looking for those as you go along. And again, there's like 3 to a page. So you'll have those. They come together very fast, very, very fast. And then you have it. And so let's talk about signing your books. I want you to come up with a signature. I mean, you can just do your name, certainly. Or you could give them, a little encouragement. So for example, from my memoir, I have From My Heart to Yours. Okay. So, and I sign it. Now, I rarely put my full name. I just put Judith. I never date it. I never date it on it. And what I do is then I have them, and I use a certain pen. I sign everything purple. So I have a purple pen. Now, when I say a purple pen, there's a gazillion purples. I buy at least a dozen of them. So I have them. If I run out of ink, it's just trashed. And I can continue because I've signed my pre-inscription before. I just add their name to it. Or maybe there's something special to add. I get asked sometimes. But that way you save oodles of time, which you want to do. Oodles of time. And then you want to, and then instead of your head being down and they see the top of your head because you're signing and writing, that you can make eye contact in doing it. The other thing that I would highly recommend to all of you is that you create, I take in, uh, uh, I was going to say a note taker. I take in a sign-up sheet, and I have it on a plastic board. I color purple again. And it is spelled out this way, because whenever I'm signing, you want to start collecting these emails. And I say at the top of it, you'll be added to my preferred email list on some of these as you go along, and that would make a difference for you. And so you have that as you go together in that, and then you are going to start asking and collecting like a sign up sheet so that you will always have them for an event so that people can sign them up and order and when they buy your book, so you know what they're doing. It makes a huge, huge difference. And this is, part of your marketing as you go along in that. So what mine look like, I thought I maybe could find it easily here, but it's not jumping out at me, which is always irritating. But that when you do this, that I put my book, if I have multiple books up on a table of that, and okay, so here's what I'm going to show it to you now. Let me go to my sharing, and I'll show you how I do this. All right, so this is where we're at, okay? And that I have it and receive, so that when they join my reader circle, they receive special notices of books and offerings and that kind of thing. And I ask for their name, their email, and their mobile number. Now, here's what I also do when I'm in. So this is the full sheet. And I always have multiples with me because you never know how many people you're going to meet. But I have all these books. So what I do up above here is I write down the number, like how many copies of The Author's Walk, how many copies of the publishing bundles do they have, how many of each one of them. And now I have a new one. We have to add on a new book because the new book is coming out in July. So we'll easily add that on. And then so we have this. All right. So then what their name, email. Now here's what you've got to make sure that you can read their email because sometimes people really scribble. So make sure before they leave. Down here, when I'm in the bookstore, in this little empty space, I use stick figures like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many books get sold? How many books have I signed and they took away? So that way I can match what the bookstore have. If do I run out of books? When you're in a bookstore, if they've ordered books in, and let's say you're hot and your books all get sold, I want you to make sure that they will agree, you always carry extra books with you, that you can bring in other books. Like I always know, this is book 2, this is book 1. I always sell out of this book, and it 2 to 1. So I figured out ways to get around it, and I'll give you the language I use because the journey is the first edition. Now the secret rise will be coming along, but if I run out of the journey, and I'll say I'll let them know we've already sold out of book 1. I do have book 2, and then I ask if do you ever read ebooks, and half of them will say yes, I do. And I said, well, are you on Nook or Kindle or where do you get them from? And most will say they have Kindle. And then I will ask, are you on the Kindle Unlimited form? And they said, and a lot of them will say, yes, I am. I said, well, why don't you um, let me sign a copy of The Secret Hamlet for you, and that go to your Kindle Unlimited and download The Secret Journey for free. All right, so they loved that. So that's the way I could sell the rest. Then I sold out Hamlet. Right, but so what you want to do now with your name, this is one last thing I do on this little list is once they leave, I'll pick up my little form and I'll add like AW, which is Author's Walk, or I could add blunders. It could be a B, or maybe it was Snappy, Sassy, Salty. I'll put SSS. All right, just so then, because I follow up with a note to them later on, and I thank them. I say thank you for coming to the store. I enjoyed meeting you and picking up a copy of whatever it is. So that's the way you start building your super fans, and you can let them know now you've captured their email. You can let them know when you're in the store again with a different book, and bring that up. So a totally different book, and we can bring that into play. So all of those things make a huge difference for your ability. Now, another goodie I want you to get, let me see what I have here. I'm a big believer in bookmarks. On that, I don't know if I have many. I'm looking back here, see what I have here. All right, so this is for, we have The Secret Journey is book 1. And here's the tip here. And then book 2 is the second book. Right now we'll be doing book 3. We're going to do a bookmark 2 different ways. And I never order less than 1,000 bookmarks. You're going to give them away like candy. You give them away like candy. And they do it, but people will read it. When people are reading, do not talk. Let them read it. See if it hooks them in, and then they may turn it over. And I've had people say, I'll take both books. Okay, cool on that. So for my books that have all my publishing books, I don't know if I have any that have, oh, you don't have. Right. So I have another bookmark. I have a website for all my books, but here's another bookmark that will have all my publishing. There's a fiction. See, this is already dated because I'll pull it back. We have a third book. We have a cookbook now that's come out. So, but I have a little club called Judith Briles Books. If they go on it, they download a free portion of the cookbook. And then I give away stuff. I do things with them. And it makes, again, that kind of difference on where we can go. And so that's what we're looking at. And that it bookmarks to your friends. And that's what you want to make sure that you've got something to give away on that. I don't give away candy, with the exception I've done something recently and I don't have, but I have created, like, I have inside chocolate. And so when people buy a book, I'll say, well, you need, chocolate. And I have my book cover wrapped around Hershey's chocolates or Kit Kats, or we don't do you can buy them, the mini chocolate bars, and they typically have Hershey's, they have milk and dark, and they have a Kit Kat, and they have Mr. Goodbar. We never use Mr. Goodbar. We save them and give them to our friends because it's got nuts in it. And you have to be very careful. You don't want to create anything that will bring it along in that area. So that's what we're looking at as we put this together. All right, so that's kind of a wrap up. I think we'll put it together and we'll have book marketing. You got to do it. You've got to be on social media, have it tied to your website, be consistent, consistent. Every day, get something up. All right, so good luck to you, and we'll see you for our next episode.